Hi, this is Rosie and welcome to Rosie Reacts. So today I'm going to be reacting to BTS versus K-pop, a video essay. This is what won my Patreon poll, and I do want to give a quick shout out to my patrons. Who says patrons? Sorry. I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons for supporting my channel, and yeah, love you guys. So this is for Army Deer 13, Claudia, Gaika, and Mike Stone. Thank you guys very much. And without further ado, let us go ahead and oh, and by the way, sorry, all my content on Patreon is free. If you want to sign up for extra perks, you can, but you can always watch the content for free. I don't charge things to watch my content. Link is going to be in the description below. So in the description. Oh my god, I'm a hot mess. My thoughts, I can't talk. Let's go ahead and jump into this video, yeah?
What's up?
Hey.
I'm gonna talk about BTS again.
It's time for a video essay.
BTS versus K-pop. So BTS are really big.
No.
They're really big.
They're big beyond the imagined constraints that groups like theirs are meant to reach. They've shattered numerous records for South Korean artists, including easily breaking the record for highest selling South Korean album with a 7-track EP that came out less than a year ago called Map of the Soul Persona.
According to the Hollywood Reporter, they account for almost $5 billion of the South Korean economy, rivaling the value of that of Samsung and Hyundai. Those are multinational.
What? What? They said $5 billion, not like 5 billion won, right? Like the Korean currency, like $5 billion. That's absolutely outrageous. That's crazy. And then comparing them to Samsung and Hyundai, like those are big brands, okay? Oh my god. Like, I know they're big, but the numbers are just freaking crazy.
Multi-billion-dollar corporations being rivaled by a 6-year-old music group from an indie entertainment company. And in response, the rest of the world is confused as
their fans, I swear to you, it's like the Beatles have, like, Lazarus just risen from the dead. Like, people are
Map of the
really
Soul, which has already had 3 million pre-orders. We have some very big fans right outside the studio today.
Sure. Like millions of let's make.
And they even shattered like their own records, right? Is it Map of the Soul 7 even bigger than Persona?
K-pop is a genre of music, and in order to be a K-pop artist, you got to go through K-pop college, and that's actually a real thing.
It's understandable that people would be confused. How could a music group whose primary language is Korean dominate international markets to the point of being the best-selling record globally in 2019 with one EP that had one single?
In order to understand, at least well enough, how BTS became this big, you'd have to have an understanding of South Korean history, the South Korean music industry, international hip-hop, and social media fandom at the least. And most publications either aren't able to gain these understandings or don't care to.
Wait, what did
so
that
instead,
say? Wait, sorry. I didn't even catch the headline there. I'm just gonna start.
And at least well enough how BTS became this big, you'd have to have an understanding of South Korean history, the South Korean music industry, international hip-hop, and social media fandom at the least. And most publications either aren't able.
K-pop group BTS is seducing America, and we really got China to thank for it. Eh? That sounds like it'd probably be inaccurate.
Able to gain these understandings or don't care to. So instead, most of the conversations
Oh my god, what? That went a little fast too.
aren't able to gain these understandings or don't
Over a 13-hour trans-Pacific journey, here's what I learned.
care to. So instead, most of the conversation focuses on one ostensibly understandable part of BTS's identity: K-pop.
I mean, after all, BTS are a K-pop group, right? Maybe? I think. You can't gain a true understanding about BTS's rise to success without understanding the world they came from, which is K-pop. The problem is, most people don't understand K-pop or BTS as much as they think they do.
What do you think when you think of
Well,
K-pop,
I know I don't
casual
understand it
audience
all,
member?
so.
I'd guess you think of screaming teenage girls, perfect looks and choreography, simple English hooks, and of course that spooky underbelly that every magazine and their mama has lined up to cover over the years. There are two problems with this. One, BTS have succeeded in great part due to their divergence from these common K-pop qualities. But when BTS and their success are constantly grouped in with K-pop by Western media, the people being introduced to them who only know those things are going to think that BTS success comes down to those things, which could be further from the truth, but still isn't really true. And two, K-pop is a lot more complicated than the ideas everyone has of it. Even the people that study and discuss Korean music disagree on their definitions of what K-pop is and what the term K-pop even means.
I've been tangentially in the media industry for less than 2 years and covering BTS for less than a year, less than half a year. And I'm here to tell you that the media industry is not covering BTS as well as they should in the West. I started a Twitter
Yeah.
account with the goal of explaining these topics in a form that blends journalism and social media. It's a Twitter account called TY But Disagree. Today we're launching the first episode of our TY But Disagree video series, hosted right here on Baby Gang, my YouTube channel, and fake media company. If any of this is confusing, it doesn't matter. Here's what matters.
Today we're going to talk about BTS in relation to K-pop. We're going to learn about what K-pop is, what BTS are, and whether or not BTS are even a K-pop group in the first place. And before you close this video and dismiss that question as absurd, I assure you, this stuff is way more nuanced than you think it is. Part 1. What is K-pop?
Is K-pop a genre or an industry? Yes.
Or no? A 2017 article by TK Park on his popular blog Ask a Korean, entitled K-pop is not a genre, asserts that the term loosely only refers to popular music of Korea, which of course includes many types of genres and labels. Park mentions the rock group FT Island and the solo crooner IU. These two artists make different styles of music but can both be classified as K-pop. Therefore, K-pop can't be a genre, but more of a generalized classification. Simple enough, right? Well, no. It's important to remember that genre classification in general does not strictly refer to musical stylings. At least, this is the assertion held in a response article by Lizzie Parker at the blog Beyond Hallyu from the same year, entitled, Is K-pop a genre? Yes. Yes it is. That's the title, I didn't exaggerate that. Parker does not entirely throw out Park's valid assertion that K-pop is a loose classification meaning popular music of Korea, but contends that this makes it a genre all the same, as all genre classifications have this same looseness. Quote, no one actually uses genres to make concrete, definitive lists of specific kinds of music. They're relational terms we use so we can form an understanding of a piece of music, often before we have listened to it, in relation to our existing cultural reference points, and further understand our and others' enjoyment, or lack thereof.
As an example, the pop genre is the messiest classification you can imagine. Louis Capaldi and Lizzo both have two of the top songs on pop charts right now, as of my making this video, but one of them makes sad white boy folk pop, and another one of them makes funk, soul, and disco adjacent rap music. They're both pop artists in that they employ accessible music qualities. They have catchy melodies, they've got accessible time signatures, conventional mixes, but from a technical standpoint and from a cultural standpoint, they couldn't be any more different from each other.
Both authors make valid points. Given that K-pop basically means Korean pop, that means that this sloppy genre classification still qualifies in a way. The only difference is the subcategorization of this music being primarily or entirely created and marketed by the Korean music industry, mostly in the Korean language and mostly performed by Koreans or people of Korean descent. In the United States, genre classification has strong ties to racial and cultural barriers. As described by the musicologist Robert Fink in a PS Mag piece by Jack Denton, quote, the way genre works is to create categories that are partly musical, but also have a lot to do with the perceived identity of the artists and the target market. This could partially explain why K-pop is such a prevalent term in the United States, but is by many accounts used far less in Korea. Instead, the term idol music is used to describe what Americans typically deem K-pop, as in the groups and solo acts who create hybridized Korean songs with Western pop music qualities, and usually present with precise choreography and makeup.
Now that we've deconstructed the term K-pop a little bit, let's talk about...
It's kind of true. Like, we definitely, know, it's like you say K-pop and you just think about all Korean music. You don't really distinguish between the different genres in the music. Is basically all grouped together in K-pop, which is pretty ignorant. It's pretty ignorant. But yeah, I can see that being a bit annoying. So it looks like he's saying that in Korea they don't say really K-pop that much. They say idol music. So any music that comes from a big group and is kind of poppy, it comes under idol music. And then like things from solo artists would have its own classification, like hip hop, R&B, jazz, rock, things like that, right? Is that where he's going with it? Let's see
what idol music is and where it came from. In order to do that, a brief history of music in South Korea. Let's go.
For centuries up until the late 1800s, Korean culture was shaped by Sino-centrist ideals, deeply influenced by their proximity and allyship with China. This led to the preeminence of Korean Confucianism, which entailed the emphasis on things like a stringent shared moral code in social situations, a respect for elders, and a necessitation of ritualism. Those rituals extend to the traditional music styles of Korea. Works which followed a pentatonic music scale, involved Chinese-derived instruments and garb, and included genres like pansori, which is a type of storytelling via vibrato-heavy, open-throated pentatonic scale singing. These styles of music involved very conservative performances. The body is still, the clothes are unrevealing of any flesh. The lyrics were even oriented towards Confucian ideals of family and morality. Japanese rule over Korea led greatly to the introduction of Western styles of music, particularly classical styles and even balladic styles that translate more directly into modern pop music. Then after World War II, Japanese rule over Korea ended and Western artistic influences came from the United States more than anything, especially through the brief and turbulent period of American occupation. Things ebbed and flowed and changed over the decades. South Korean audiences became more and more appreciative of Western sounds, particularly as the television and the karaoke machine grew to become highly popular and as the economy improved. Hip-hop became a phenomenon in the West during the 80s, and its influence disseminated throughout the world. Soteji and Boys debuted in 1990 and completely abandoned pentatonic scale structure, making full use of diatonic hip-hop, rock, and pop sounds. They also incorporated dancing, which had been utilized successfully by artists like Sobangcha before them.
This is the group that did the original Come Back Home, right? That BTS did the cover for, right, of Come Back Home. Oh my god, that song is so damn good. I have to listen to the original. I haven't done that yet. Okay, cool.
They weren't the first to do these things they did, but they were the most influential, particularly in how they synthesized these elements, how they reformed the conventional music TV formats and other music formats, how they built a really strong fan base of young people, and their overall explosive entry into the Korean music industry signaled a change in things to come.
Soteji and Boys, by the way, were pretty badass. They wrote their own stuff and they played their own instruments, and despite their music not carrying the same leftist ideals necessarily that previous attempts at Western music had in South Korea, they were still unafraid to challenge status quo and older generations in a very un-Confucian way.
Notably, in 1988, South Korea lifted travel restrictions on its citizens. After Soteji, Westernization in Korean pop music accelerated quickly, with the rise of groups like H.O.T., who are considered the first idol group as they were the first to be scouted, trained, and put together to become a hit boy band, as well as the rise of Korean dramas like the big 2002 hit Winter Sonata. A sudden, drastic, and ongoing increase of intrigue in South Korean culture and art began globally. This phenomenon is referred to as Hallyu. As a side note, I recommend that those interested in Hallyu read Kim Buk-rae's Past, Present, and Future of Hallyu paper, as well as John Lie's What is the K in K-pop, which greatly informed this history section of the essay that I'm doing. In the former, Kim states the following of Hallyu and its focus of decentralizing Western culture by adapting it. Quote, under the current circumstances, the Hallyu boom is emerging in the modernized/industrialized East Asia, where people with an economic power have a strong desire to be the cognitive subjects of their cultural activities. In this context, Hallyu can no longer be considered a simple cultural acculturation, but but a transcultural phenomenon or a process of cultural power reorganization through the complex/dynamic movements of people, mass medias, and transnational capitals. Thanks to this eventual embrace and aim for perfection in the realm of popular Western forms, South Korea's economy is boosted drastically year by year by its cultural exports. Understanding Korean history teaches us a few things.
Okay. So if I'm getting this right, and forgive me if I'm wrong, like my brain is like, whew, that's a lot of information to take in, and it's been a while since I've been out of school, okay guys? It's been a little while now. So I'm not used to academic pursuits nearly as much. So what I'm getting from that long sentence, basically, is South Korea trying to put a mark on the world, like its own mark on the world, right? By spreading its culture. Like, it has influences from the West, but they're using those influences and putting their own mark on it and making it uniquely South Korean, and then putting that back out in the world, and that increases like their global recognition, something like that. I think I could be wrong, but I think that's kind of the gist.
One, that Korean culture is divided between past and present, between Western ideals and the remnants of Confucianist, Sinocentric ideals. While South Korean society still retains these moral codes and customs related to respect and ritualism, it's also being pulled quickly in the direction of more liberal, rebellious, anti-traditional ideas, in part because these ideas are fueling boosts to the country's economy. This conflict manifests in the music itself and the music industry, which is very dead set on upholding certain traditions and approaches while using art forms like hip-hop that are built on anti-establishment, anti-ritual
What's up
values.
with that music
This
video,
creates
man?
a tension within the music that is ironically uniquely Korean, despite the fact that your average K-pop song bears little resemblance to anything that existed in Korea before the 20th century. Thusly, it teaches us that K-pop is more than just a genre or an industry. It is a cultural export and, somewhat antagonistically to the people who make money from K-pop, a progressive cultural movement, in a way. Additionally, K-pop is not just a genre or an industry specifically, but a format where music of various genres comes with a dance/visuals package.
So yes, K-pop is a genre in a way because it speaks to a direct social cultural concept that relates to what we understand basically is Hallyu, and the underpinnings of South Korean society shifting as it balances the traditional with the progressive, the old and the new, both of which can be debated as potentially more expedient than expressive.
What's funny and unsurprising is that the artists that seem to shirk conventionality and tradition the most, against the grain of what makes up most of this genre that's supposed to be export friendly, are the ones that become the most successful and the most exported. That can be said of Soteji, and it can be said of Psy, who very much did not look or sound like the hotties you'd see in HOT, but still absolutely shattered the international music market with 2012's Gangnam Style, a song which, true story, is actually a commentary about the nouveau riche young Koreans.
That was probably the only Korean song I had ever heard before getting introduced to BTS. I also heard Chicken Noodle Soup, but that's also, from a BTS member, J-Hope. But yeah, Psy's Gangnam Style, oh my god, yeah. Yeah, I can tell some stories about my family doing that, but it's a good song. It's a good song. I mean, it's probably the song that most people before BTS would have thought of when they heard anything about Korean music. Which, take it as you will. Some people might see that as a negative, but I think it's a fun song.
Attempting to flex their material wealth and coolness like the kids in the city of Gangnam. It's basically the dance craze EDM version of Beverly Hills by Weezer.
So yeah, so Teji and his boys, don't forget the boys, they succeeded from shirking conventionality, and then Psy succeeded from shirking conventionality, and am I forgetting somebody?
Part 2. Who are BTS and why are they so big? Okay, so Teji and boys debut. They make Korean pop rap a thing, they become hugely influential, and then Lee Soo-man, president of SM Entertainment, realizes that black music is going to be key to constructing K-pop in the image of Teji and others, so he scouts an attractive boy band that blends sex appeal with hip-hop and calls it HOT. HOT succeeds, and soon floods of boy groups and girl groups follow to varying degrees of success, often paired with behind-the-scenes controversies, fan wars, slave contracts, and everyone's favorite subject of Twitter arguments, cultural appropriation. Hip-hop becomes super popular in Korea as fans of the genre and culture devise new ways in which the Korean language can be bent into rap music without sounding awkward or overly imitative of Americans and the uncomfortable ideas Korean society had of Black American culture. Yikes. To thank for this, you have OGs like Verbal Chint and Tiger JK of Drunken Tiger, but you also have Epic High to thank, led by Korean-Canadian rapper and Stanford graduate Tableau. Fuck you if you don't think he graduated from Stanford. Epic High became successful not only in hip-hop subcultural circles, but also in the mainstream eye. In the midst of this booming new K-pop music industry, and by K-pop I do mean idol music, as well as the rise of rap music in the mainstream, a successful idol music producer named Park Si-hyuk starts his own record label in 2005 called Big Hit Entertainment. The label struggles with money, but stays afloat by working with different groups. In 2010, one of Big Hit's producers, P-Dog, and an underground rapper named Sleepy are drunk. Sleepy says to P-Dog, "Hey bro, do you want to see this teenage rapper I found in an audition? He's pretty dope." And P-Dog says, "Bro, yes." So Sleepy finds these underground Korean rap videos of this one 16-year-old kid named Kim Namjoon. P-Dog is like, "Bro, he's dope." And Sleepy is like, "Bro, I told you." And then P-Dog decides to tell Pang about Kim Namjoon. And then Pang is like, "Holy cow, he's dope." And then P-Dog is like, "I told you." And then Pang is like, "Shut up, I'm your boss." And P-Dog is like, "Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Pang." And then Pang is like, "Bring this kid in immediately to audition for my label." So Namjoon comes in, he does the audition, Pang is blown away, and he signs him on the spot. Now the problem is, Pang doesn't know what to do with this kid. He knows he's the real deal and is devoted to making him part of a bigger project to get him famous. And so he decides, I'm gonna put Namjoon in a rap group, like Epic High. So they start holding auditions for rappers and a bunch of them come and go. The second audition, which contained a video cattle call that has since become an infamous meme, brought in the group's second rapper, Min Yoongi, aka Suga. As time evolves, the idea morphs from being a rap group to being a rap-centric idol group, and Suga and Namjoon realize that they have to dance, which probably sucked for them. What you have to understand about Big Hit is that they were...
I gotta say, I really appreciate the stick figure animation. It was quite a nice audition. Audition? What am I doing? Addition. Like adding something. No. So that's how big BTS really came about. It's because two of the producers were drunk and showing each other videos. Well, I'm happy they got drunk that night, and I'm happy they shared videos, and then they shared it with Hitman Bang, because it would be a sad, sad world indeed if BTS did not get born. Jeez, we got lucky.
A small company, really small. They would never be able to compete on the level of big labels like SM and YG, who would cherry pick amazing talent, offer them the best potential rewards, and put them in a well-resourced, regimented training system. Big Hit had no trainee system in place when they brought in Namjoon, and scraped by to create one, brought in more members, and adapted with what they had. There are many clips and pics online from this time period, which include the group's senior member, Jin, paying for the youngest member, Jungkook's food out of his pocket instead of from funding they had from Big Hit, which was quite low. When it was finally time for BTS to debut, their act was sharpened and had resolve. They were going to wear dark clothes and do lots of acrobatics and shouts on stage. They were going to critique Korean society based on their own feelings and influences from groups like Epic High, as encouraged by Pang and as part of Big Hit's mantra of music for healing. They were going to film themselves a lot, capturing their struggle to get better from the beginning. Their second ever reality show featured the group heading to Los Angeles to get drilled on hip-hop culture, which was to be a fulcrum of their ethos.
So how did this group succeed so much more than any other big group before them? Generally, I'd say it's because they blended the subversive, progressive virality of acts like Sotejin Boys and Psy with the well-trained dynamism of big groups like Big Bang and EXO. But perhaps more importantly, BTS, intentionally and inadvertently, had an ethos.
Being a fan of BTS meant sharing in that ethos. BTS and Big Hit pushed music for healing. Each of their records have messages, implicit and explicit, which encourage social change, respect, and self-healing. Their first ever series of albums, known as the School Series, tackled the commodification of dreams and the pressure from older generations, themes that would later surface in anti-establishment anthems like Bepse and Paradise. Or take the later Love Yourself album series as another example. The self-explanatory title bridges together together a conceptualized album trilogy by the group which delved into themes of self-love and exploration of identity. And bear in mind that this kind of stuff, the trilogies, the thematic through lines, that's stuff that hadn't really been done in this format at all prior to BTS, and became influential moving forward. These albums were not only written to appeal to young audiences, but to guide young audiences to happier, healthier lives. And in this way, BTS...
It's true, like, I love the fact that they have, like, themes running through their albums. I mean, that's, I don't know, it's so creative, and I'm sure it probably has been done, at least in maybe on a smaller scale, by other artists in the past. I don't know which artist, because this is the first time I've seen an artist do it. But and the detail, Jesus, the detail that they put into their work. I mean, I'm going through the storyline. I just finished the Wings short films. Hopefully I posted a week one already. If not, I'll be posting that soon. But God, the detail that they put into everything, like with the storyline, and then not just the storyline, but like the connecting themes of their albums, and like you guys told me that they reference like songs that they did a long time ago into songs that they're even doing today. So it's like everything just feels connected, and that brings an emotional aspect to it, you know, like. But then the themes that they do talk about, you know, like the self-love and stuff, it really helps you to feel a connection, because you do feel like you're feeling healed, you know, like you are getting a sense of comfort. You're learning to like value yourself more just by listening to this music and reading the lyrics and understanding the message. And the community as well, ARMY, like talking with people who feel the same way that you do regarding this, and like support each other and stuff like that. Yeah, it's all a big reason for the success, that you can spread such a positive message and have such a positive impact on the world. That's what makes a group special.
It's perfectly called to the duality we see in the history of K-pop, blending the exportable Western ideals of progressivism, expressivism, and rebellion with the Confucian ideals of respect and patience and morality. This is why older audiences as well as non-female audiences also highly approve of BTS, especially in Korea. They don't see the same facetiousness or consumerism in BTS's methodology. The general quality that gets brought up is authenticity or organicness, which are at their roots very confusing and toxic words but still feel apropos in describing the unique quality of BTS. Let's look at another article written by the aforementioned TK Park alongside author Youngdae Kim. It examines the boy band label given to BTS and how BTS compare with other boy bands throughout history, saying this of their organic status. Quote, BTS's music comes across as organic because it is a natural output of the members' own minds. It is not a coincidence that BTS began their musical journey with hip-hop, the genre that perhaps has the highest bar for authenticity.
Lead rapper Kim Namjoon writes his lyrics, so does Suga, who also produces, so does J-Hope, who also produces, and the rest of the group, all vocalists, all contribute to the creative process in their own ways as well. But BTS not only have a message and an independent spirit and a creative vitality, they also have a little engine that could story. A feel-good tale about this one under-resourced group that stuck to their guns and ended up succeeding.
That does also help. The underdog story. I mean, who doesn't love an underdog story? And the fact that they worked so hard and with such little resources, I mean, that is so inspirational. I can't talk. It's so inspirational. It's something that you can really admire. And you know, I haven't heard anything like scandalous about them, you know, so it seems like they actually live up to the stuff that they preach, and they set a good example. It's, yeah. What's not to love? I mean, if you don't at least, like, even if you don't like their music, which, if you don't like their music, I don't understand you, but, you know, even if you don't, if you can't respect them and considering like what they've achieved and like how they achieved it and how they live their lives, I mean, there got to be something a little bit wrong with you, or you're just really closed-minded.
Past all of the other much more well-resourced, richer, more conventional groups.
It's also worth noting that BTS's fan base is incredibly culturally and demographically diverse in general. It includes all genders, all sexual orientations, and all age groups. That's not to say that there aren't fans of other groups from all demographics, it just doesn't split quite as evenly as BTS's fan base does, usually. You see tweets from older married couples excitedly ruminating on seeing BTS live for the first.
This year's data of the annual poll of Korea's something GP, what's that? I don't know. Was wild as F. In the age groups of 13 to 18, 19 to 29, and 30s, Bangtan is number 1. But while all other idol groups drop out of the top 10, with the 40s, BTS is number 2. BTS even stays in the top 5 with 50-year-olds, along with only trot singers. That's so crazy. That's so cool. I mean, I know that they reach out to like they appeal to people who are older as well, but it's just so awesome to see like just how well they do with those groups. Number 2 and in the top 5. Okay.
First time. These dynamics are not only unprecedented within K-pop, they're unprecedented to any boy band anywhere in the world, perhaps including the Beatles, whose pop work and more subversive work mostly engaged younger and artsier audiences, while BTS appealed to all age groups and interest groups.
When you simply label BTS as a K-pop group or as a boy band and then paint their fan bases sex-crazed young women whose attraction to the group stems from physical attraction and general excitement and hysteria, you not only are sort of painting a bad image about young women in general and their tastes, but you're also missing a key component of why the group is successful. So if labeling BTS as a K-pop group isn't wholly accurate, is it accurate at all?
Part 3. Conclusion. Are BTS a K-pop group?
Yeah, they're a K-pop group. At least I think so. You might notice that I am doing this a bit different from the rest of the video. That's because I recorded this part a few days after the original video was recorded, because I wanted to redo this part and make sure that I worded it correctly, make sure that I, came off the way that I wanted to come off and articulated the points that I wanted to articulate. At the end of the day, this is a pretty nuanced conversation, one that different people are going to stand on different sides of, and I don't take issue with anybody saying that BTS aren't a K-pop group, because categorization is pretty dumb and up to anybody to, decide. And also I think, it's pretty refreshing to hear that people want to take BTS and their achievements and put it in its own category. That's a beautiful thing in a way. I just think, for one, when you look at what BTS have done, from the fact that they came from the K-pop industry, that they accept Idol as a title, and they made it the center of one of their songs, one of their hits, Idol, and the fact that they've done reality shows and variety shows, first doing them on the network shows and then doing them on their own, the fact that they have similar release strategies to K-pop groups and how much output they do, the way that they combine different styles of music. I mean, they have their own unique blend of it, but it's still a blend that pretty much resembles K-pop in a lot of ways. The fact that they sing in Korean, the fact that they, are in the same category when it comes to award shows and nominations as somebody like EXO or somebody like Blackpink. They just swept all the Daesangs this past, season. I think ultimately what BTS do is take the format and the ideas of K-pop and rearrange them and edit them and elevate them in many ways. They don't represent a different category altogether from K-pop.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I do think that BTS is K-pop, but I think that they're basically K-pop on another level. I would say, like, they're unique, and this is, well, it seemed weird saying this, right? Because I haven't really listened to K-pop, but from what I'm hearing, like the details that he's going over, and what you guys have mentioned in the comments, from that, the limited knowledge that I know, that I've been given, I would say that they're K-pop but unique. That they're not doing the exact same things that other groups are doing, but it's similar enough that they would still be in that category, and the fact that they're winning awards, that like they're in that same group, they're nominated within those same type of groups and stuff like that. Yes. But you know, their story, how they came from like a smaller company, they weren't part of like the big company, those industries and stuff like that. They're more involved with actually making their own work. Just, I don't know, like the storylines that they have. So they're K-pop but unique, like I said. Of course, I have to listen to other K-pop groups in the future maybe to get more of a sense of like an idea of like what I think about the rest of like the groups and stuff like that. But they have to be unique, right? Because if every K-pop group was as amazing as BTS, I like the world would explode. It would probably explode. I don't know. Let's finish this out.
Pop, to me, they represent a new horizon for it. They represent somebody pushing the boundaries of it and opening up the definition of K-pop and blazing a new trail for different artists who want to do K-pop to see what they did and learn from them. They're changing the definition a little bit and they're opening it up, but they're not necessarily separating themselves entirely from K-pop. I think ultimately what the problem is here is not necessarily whether or not you can classify BTS as K-pop, because like sure you can. The problem is that people are so predisposed to categorizing them as K-pop before anything else. The problem is that people want to wash over the unique elements of the things that they do in order to just classify them as a K-pop group and attribute all their success and their glory to that. That's not fair and that's not smart. It's not smart even when you do it with other groups that have pushed the boundaries of K-pop, like a Soteji or like a 17 who write and produce their own music, like a G-Friend who are similar, like IU who does amazing conceptual work as well. I think that these people are not necessarily separate from K-pop, but you can classify them as so many more things than K-pop. You can classify BTS ultimately as a pop group or a pop rap group or whatever before you classify them as K-pop, because they belong in the same category as someone like Taylor Swift or someone like Halsey, who greatly respects and admires them, or Ariana Grande or Billie Eilish. I mean, these are the kind of artists that BTS find themselves in the same level of global success as. They're the type of artists that ultimately BTS are similar to in many ways, and yet because they're Korean and because K-pop is a part of their identity, it pretty much dominates the conversation unfairly. We are very easy going when it comes to classifying people regionally when they come from other regions, but not recognizing that we are regional artists ourselves in the United States. That's kind of poorly worded, but whatever. Ultimately, I think that's the message of Idol, is that they are K-pop artists, and you can call them that, but you can also call them many other things. They're proud of that part of themselves, but to define them as that would be to be missing the entirety of the picture. And that's something that happens with media a lot. We categorize things very easily, try to attribute things in nice little boxes without recognizing the big picture. Especially for something as gigantic as BTS is in terms of a worldwide movement, that's a huge mistake.
Once you acknowledge that the things people think about K-pop are not entirely true, you begin to see that the supposed separation between BTS and K-pop is not as drastic as one may think, while still being there to some degree. BTS mix elements of hip-hop, a Black American genre, with indigenous Korean culture, like in their engendering of Han, a cultural emotional concept unique to the Korean people that involves a feeling of forlorn grief and resentment. Their music blends the Korean Confucian elements of traditional Korean society while also nailing elements of exploitation, of Western cultural ideas and progressivism that marked the rise of Hallyu. This does not mean that BTS's successes, as so many in global media seem to indicate, can be attributed to the rise of K-pop. The rise of BTS and the rise of K-pop are distant cousins. BTS's rise, while related to Hallyu and K-pop's growing popularity, is its own unique story. K-pop makes sense as a categorization for BTS in terms of one of the elements of who they are, but it does not make sense as a brush to paint over BTS's story the same way one can brush over Whitesnake's success as being attributed to hair metal. BTS do elude categorization in a way perhaps unmatched throughout pop music history, and for that they do live in their own category. But that doesn't make them not a K-pop group. It doesn't mean that the K-pop category can't describe them just as the hip-hop category or the general pop category can at times. Additionally, while many Koreans will tell you that K-pop is not popular amongst adults in Korea and is not treated as a serious genre, that doesn't mean it isn't a serious genre. The rise of poptimism in American music criticism, while controversial for a number of reasons, does center around the reality that pop music is still a legitimate and investigatable form of music, even at its most saturated and commoditized. This is especially true of pop artists who explore the form through writing and producing, much like Taylor Swift, Kendrick Lamar. Damn is a pop album and it slaps, don't at me. And of course BTS. For years before the climate crisis comes to erase civilization, we will be discussing BTS. We will be figuring out how to categorize them, failing, and then analyzing why we failed. And in the present tense, we have to continue to pressure Western media to cover BTS like the unique phenomenon that they are, not as the symptom of a viral wave or an inhumane industry or a sex-fueled craze, but as a unique, game-changing group of artists. So much of the story of BTS is one of fighting K-pop, from dealing with accusations of faking sales numbers when their album eclipsed Big Bang's album in 2015, to dealing with waves of hateful fan comments you can probably find in videos that have the term BTS and hardship in the title. This extends to fighting the label of K-pop, a label so unfairly loaded it can instantly turn global audiences away. From conservative country boys in the south of the US, to the hyper-masculinist audiences from conservative countries in Latin America, to the leftist communities appalled by the spooky K-pop industry. That, by the way, is its own thing that we gotta cover in a separate video.
We forget often that neither BTS nor K-pop can be properly and unilaterally defined. They both wield complicated semiotic experiences. They not only symbolize so many things, but the things that they symbolize differ greatly from person to person. In studying BTS, we observe how a person or group of people's categorization can be theirs to champion or theirs to destroy. How your category can both be the thing you feel you are the least and the thing you feel you are the most. I said that in such a deep and cool way. God bless me. God bless me for acting like I'm a smart person. We done. Get it off my hands. Off my hands. Thanks to everyone for helping me out. Thanks to Motoborahe. Thanks to my cat for the amazing support. I think she left. Check out our other videos moving forward and follow TY But Disagree on Twitter. I have been your host, Elliot Sang. If you have an opinion about this, and you probably do have an opinion about this, and you might be mad at me about what my opinion is, leave a comment. Be nice, but leave a comment. Or don't be nice. Fuck it. I can take it.
Okay. Okay, so that was good. It had a lot of information, guys. I don't know if I retain every single bit of information. It was a lot of information. It was a 30-minute video. Just dropping facts. But it was super informative. I just think it's stupid that people try to attribute like BTS's success to the rise of K-pop. I mean, no, they're successful because of the fact that they're bringing something like unique to the table, but also something that so many people can relate to. You know, like they're like the messages in their music, their underdog story, all of that. Those are all things that people admire and people can relate to, and because it's such a universal message, I think that's really an important aspect of their success that stands apart from them being a K-pop group. I mean, come on. Not to say that them being a K-pop group is something that's bad. I mean, it's music, guys. Like, why do we want to put like negative connotations on certain groups of music? Whatever sounds good is good. Whatever makes you want to dance, whatever makes you feel connected, whatever inspires some type of like emotion in you that isn't ooh, you know, like whatever does that for you is good. It doesn't matter what kind of music it is. But yes, I like this. Thank you guys for recommending it. Thank you for voting in the poll. And please like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.